Hey everyone, my name is Brian, and the name of the show is BU Beyond the Sport. And today we're joined with Arinze Chance, the Guyana national indoor 300 and 400 meter record holder.
Hey, I'm Arinze Chance. I'm happy to be here. Brian, thanks for having me on the BU podcast.
It's amazing to have you. So, part of the podcast, we want to go back and dive into some of your childhood memories. Try to get to know you before you even was a track and field athlete.
Oh, this is a way back. Because I started track when I was 8, but before track, I played cricket for a little bit. I played at Maltino Sports Club. I think cricket was my first love, like almost every Guyanese boy. And it was one day we were at cricket practice, and I think we had shuttle runs or something like that to do. And the coach was like, "Yeah, you're too fast. You're beating all the older boys, so you might as well go practice for track." So I went to track practice. I made it to nationals that year. That was 2004. And ever since then, I've just been winning nationals and representing Guyana to the best of my ability. So I guess there's not much to talk about before track and field because track and field has pretty much been my entire life. Even from primary school, like I would have mentioned, St. Margaret's Primary, and when I went on to the Bishop's High School, and then sixth form at Queen's College. It's every level of education. I've been involved in track and field. So this has pretty much been my entire life.
That's amazing because I knew you started young, but I didn't know 8 years old. So I also know, I don't know if it's a rumor because you've debunked it a few times, that you're allergic to track, the grass. And in Guyana, you run track on the
On
grass.
the grass. Yeah, well, I don't know how much truth there was to it because I did suffer from these allergic reactions. My skin would just get like these bumps. Guyanese would call it mad bumps, and or in America you call it hives. Different names for the same thing. I didn't know how I got it, but every time I showed up to a track meet, whether it's after the first race or after the second race, because I typically ran 3 or 4 races every track meet, my skin would just get these bumps and it would itch, but it never really affected my performance. So everyone who knew me from early track and field days knew me as a result of these allergies. I mean, apart from winning, but it helps to make it easier, having a guy who is visibly noticeable. He's winning, but he also has these reactions on his skin. But apart from that, I don't think that the reactions came as a result of the grass. I think they more came about as a result of anxiety. Because I remember the first time I ran on the synthetic Mondo track, that was in St. Lucia in 2006. I still had the reaction. There wasn't any grass around. And we were like, okay, I need to do some allergy testing. I came back to Guyana, did some allergy testing, and I still had it. So they were like, yeah, nothing to grass, nothing to any of the common allergens. And I think it was when I wrote CSEC exam, that was the 11th grade. So Form 5 in Guyana, 11th grade in the US. I still had the reaction. I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely anxiety because I was nervous as heck. Like, going into this exam that would pretty much determine your future. And I still had the reaction. So I figure it wasn't the grass, but I think it sounded cool telling people that I was allergic to grass. But it was actually anxiety.
So how have you now overcome that knowledge? You know it's anxiety because I haven't seen those rashes in years, and you've competed and done amazing things at higher levels, both educational wise and track and field.
Yeah. First of all, my parents, we pray a lot. That was one thing. As a Christian family, we definitely spent a lot of times praying, going to pastors as well, and praying over it. And then I would have also started working with my psychologist. So getting the mental strength to overcome, the internal battles and external forces as well. I think those two factors would have assisted me in overcoming the allergies as we would have seen them and the anxiety that I believe would have caused the allergies. And I've never struggled with them. I think the last time I've seen them was probably sometime in 2015 when I was in Trinidad at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. But it was just like one day and then it went away. Um, so there's pretty much, I guess, my history on the allergies and how I would have had to do the mental work and all that to overcome it.
All right, so let's talk about Trinidad and Tobago because growing up, I didn't know of any track and field athlete that actually went and ran in Trinidad and Tobago. You were the first for my knowledge. That might make me a little bit ignorant on the sport, but um,
No, so Trinidad, I'll tell you how Trinidad started. And I think that's how most Guyanese even got into running in Trinidad. There was something called the Hampton Games, and I think that was sponsored large in part by the N3As, which is the National Athletic Association of Trinidad and Tobago. And they hosted this competition and it attracted the likes of like Usain Bolt, the national record holder for Guyana in the 100 meters before Emmanuel Archibald, Adam Harris. He actually broke the record there at the Hampton Games. I saw that live. Asafa Powell and other large athletes, large name athletes, they would have all been to Hampton Games. So one year, I think it was 2014, a friend of mine who I was training with at the police athletic club, because that's my home club here in Guyana. He told two friends basically, Tevin Garraway and myself, let's go to Trinidad and compete. So we went to Trinidad and that was horrible. Like I realized the gap between sprinting in Trinidad and in Guyana. I think Tevin did reasonably well. He made the finals, but he didn't finish on the podium, if my memory serves me right. And then 2015, we went again. But in 2015, my motive was different. I'm like, okay, these guys are not better than I am. They're just training differently from I am. So I made it an obligation to find the coaches from the winning team at the Hampton Games, which is the Abilene Wildcats. I made it an obligation to find them the following day after the championship concluded. So I went to Hazy Crawford Stadium with Tevin Garraway, and I found out that Abilene Wildcats, they don't train there. They train further in the east, in Arima. So I spoke to the coaches there, and they were like, these are the clubs training at Hazy Crawford. You could definitely find out more about the other clubs and all of that. So I returned to Guyana, found out that there was this program being offered at the University of Trinidad and Tobago where they have this sport program for university students. So they're providing these scholarships. You get to play your sport and they provide housing and also, everybody wants the little pocket change. So they were doing all of that and I figured this was the perfect opportunity. The goal is always get a scholarship in the US, but I needed help getting there. I wasn't running as fast because I think I was probably running like 48 seconds or something like that in Guyana. In my first year at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, I ran 46.8. I was like, holy moly, like this is exactly what I needed. So after that, I think I realized how the gap was bridged. It was really just a knowledge in coaching. Now we see a lot of other athletes, whether they're going to Trinidad or going to Jamaica or going to junior colleges in New York, New Jersey, or wherever it is, they're bridging that gap and they're getting a lot closer to achieving that scholarship dream of attending a D1 school.
And so let's continue that journey. So after Trinidad, I know you got a scholarship to the University of South Carolina. How did that also come about? How do you go from, okay, I'm running 46.8 my first year in Trinidad. How long did you run in Trinidad to
Right.
becoming a Gamecock?
So in Trinidad, at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, the program was 2 years. I did petroleum engineering there, and sadly, that program was no longer going to be funded by the government because they had a very special setup in how they were doing things. At one point, Darren Gango, famous Trinidadian cricketer, he was actually the head of that program. So that program was pretty much on its way out, and I had to find a way out. So coaches were calling me actually and they were making contact with my coach at the time. So coaches were making contact to my coach, to me, and I realized that I needed to take the best possible option. So I got Ivy League options from like Cornell University. I had Mississippi State University of Mississippi, University of South Carolina, and a few other smaller schools. But I knew that I wanted to be in the SEC because that's where all the talent goes. The fastest guys in track and field, they pretty much come from the Southeastern Conference. So I knew that if I wanted to be one of the best in the world, I had to go there. So South Carolina was the best option that I had. They offered me, honestly, an amazing deal. And I was like, where do I sign? I was like, let me sign today. They're like, no, let's wait, let's wait. They'll send the papers through and all of that. So I spent 2 years in Trinidad from 2015, graduated in 2017. I spent about 2 or 3 months here, home in Guyana. And then in January of 2018, I started the indoor season, literally hit the ground running um, at the University of South Carolina. And yeah, I graduated there in 2020. So during the time that I spent in I love that the plane is passing now because it's really reminding me of that flight to South Carolina because I've never been to South Carolina before, never heard of it as a state. Everybody
It
knows
was
North
also your
Carolina.
first time in the U.S.?
Well, no, I've actually been to Penn Relays before
Yes,
with
yes,
my
I do remember
team,
that.
from Trinidad, and so I got offers from Penn Relays as well. So all of those components combined, it made my transition very easy. And like I would have mentioned, 2 years in Trinidad, another 2 years because I graduated in COVID in the U.S. And I was honestly able to break records in Trinidad, break records at South Carolina, and I'm still running track. The goal is to see how best I can help sport of track and field in Guyana develop. I really want the best for our people.
One of the things I honestly look up to you about is that you have always been involved, like a really great student. When you were at the University of South Carolina, I remember you being like on the honor roll. There's a picture of you with like when you graduate with the Guyana flag and all these accolades around you. And most people think, oh, he's just a fast track athlete, but you're also very smart. Going
Very
back
smart.
to going back to from like you said, studying petroleum. When you first told me that, I was like, "What is petroleum?"
Yeah.
So explain to people what exactly is that, and then explain what you studied in the U.S. as well.
In Trinidad, because when I started my studies there, Guyana was now exploring the oil reserves that we are now currently benefiting from. And I wanted to be one of the first persons to say that they were a homegrown petroleum engineer. No programs were being offered in Guyana at that time. So I took that leap of faith. My parents, encouraged me along that journey. And I graduated second in my class at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. So I won't say I'm really smart. I just say I apply myself well. It's the same thing for track.
Yeah, I would. Okay, so apply because I also know, taking you back also to when you were in Bishops. I knew you
Right.
had some struggles there. You had to go to lessons, and your
Yes.
father had to drop you to lessons.
Yeah, yeah.
There's times where you got in trouble for not
Exactly.
being a great student.
Times like second form. Second form was the eighth grade. Eighth grade, yeah. Eighth grade was probably one of my worst school years ever. But sometimes you need to fall so that you can appreciate the rise when you do get it. And I think that's probably something that my parents would have also instilled in me. Never be afraid to fail. I think too many persons, athletes, students, professionals in whichever field they're afraid to fail because they feel as though people would judge them for failing. No, failure actually teaches you lessons that success would never teach you. And because of my failure in the eighth grade, I actually learned how to adapt, how to apply myself, and how to be a better student athlete. Because one thing that they say in the University of South Carolina is student first, athlete after. So even with my time there, I would have studied global studies because there were no petroleum engineering programs being offered at the University of South Carolina. So I studied global studies with a focus on leadership and economic development. My intention with that was to apply my business knowledge and to develop that so that I can be able to now impact the people in Guyana with that expertise and also show athletes that you can study anything that you really want to. Once you have a passion for it, go and do your best to ensure that you are your best version of yourself. So science and engineering in one school, business and political science in the other school. So if I decide to become a politician at some point, I now know that I have the petroleum expertise as well as the political science, business, and management expertise. So I could dabble in either side.
I mean, and I think, like I said, it's amazing for younger athletes to look up to you and say, okay, he's also an amazing person, an amazing athlete, an amazing student. He's not just one faceted.
Right.
So outside of those things too, I want to get a little bit of your social life. What did you do for fun? Because it must have been hard being second in your class and dropping PRs on a
Right.
consistent basis?
Um, oh, famous pastime outside of track, sleep. No, I value my rest. I start my days by counting my sleep. So that's my weekly schedule. Count your sleep, then you go to class, you do all of that, the important stuff during the day. And then outside of all of that, I love cooking. At one point, I had a cooking channel on on Instagram. I still have it, but I haven't posted in a while because my attention now is on Arinze Chance Inc., which is a sport development company focusing on the improvement of youth academically and in their sport. Um, and outside of that, I love hanging out with my friends. I love going out, whether it's for dinner, whether it's seeing new places. I accidentally drove across the new bridge that we have here in Guyana, the Demerara Bridge in Guyana, and I just love seeing new things, new places. I love to travel. So if there's anybody there who's willing to support my travels in any way or form, just send me a DM. I'll be ready for it. No, I love seeing new things because I feel as though as a person you develop based on your experiences. And if you live in one space for the entirety of your life, you're pretty much limiting your growth as an individual. So, going to school in different places, meeting friends in different areas, different cities, states, countries. I can go to pretty much any country, even Austria, and I have friends in Austria, or if I wanted to go to Sri Lanka or, India, I have friends pretty much everywhere, thankfully to track and field, but also to, like you would have alluded to, my, I guess, amazing personality. I'm just friendly with people. I love meeting people, going places, and growing as an individual.
I think networking is important, and basically that's what you just touched on. Is
Right.
in track, yes, numbers speak for itself, but the more you build that network, the better you are. And I think that goes back to the ARC Inc. that you started. I remember a couple of years ago you hosted the first inaugural training camp, and I was privileged to come back and be a part of that.
Right.
Talk to us about how that process went, how you made those connections to even be able to spearhead that, because ExxonMobil was one of your marquee sponsors at that time.
Right. So, actually, at that time, I was closing that deal with ExxonMobil, but I was close. They did give us a lot of merchandise for that event, and I appreciated that. Um, but I think the decision to really go into that whole sprint camp and everything else like that came from the idea of needing to develop sport here to the level of our regional partners. We're very closely related to Trinidad and Barbados, Jamaica. On the South American continent, you have Suriname and French Guyana. These are the countries they're hosting amazing events. And then I'm like, what is preventing Guyana from doing the same thing? So I spoke with my cousin. He lives in Trinidad. He was also an ex-athlete as well, Kiev Chesney. And he said to me, like, why wait until things are perfect? Use what you have now and make that better. So with my partnership that I had at the time with Banks DIH through their brand Powerade, we definitely just took the leap of faith. We launched the camp. We had about 100 and something athletes registering. And ever since then, we had another camp last year, and, we had to limit the registrants to 150 because, these are all free events. And then we even added a coaching component where we had the coach from the University of Georgia who just was promoted to assistant head coach, Coach Kareem Abdel Wahab, amazing coach. He did a session with, I think it was about 20 coaches here from across the 10 administrative regions in Guyana. And I think I'm not giving that coach credit to it, but I do believe that he had a part to play in sending Guyana's largest contingent to the Carifta Games this year in Trinidad and Tobago. So, the plan for ARC, apart from hosting those clinics, because, we need to teach our people, but we also needed to host events. And we would have hosted that relay festival with ExxonMobil, where Solitude Clothing was a part of outfitting all the athletes. And that was an amazing venture because I still get calls to this day waiting for the next relay festival. For unfortunately for them, but fortunately for me, I got married this year. So that took priority over all other events. But we will resume ARC's events next year. The Relay Festival is, of course, going to be one of our flagship events because I feel like that event brought all of the athletes together in a fun environment. And, we will continue as well with the coaching clinics, the sprint camps, and then we have a few other ventures that we will add to our calendar of events. And the goal is how can we bridge that gap that I was searching for in 2015 when I moved to Trinidad? How can we bridge that gap to the rest of our competitors in the region and even more so internationally? So the goal is getting Guyanese athletes to one, stay at home because we need to develop Guyana, and two, to be able to compete with the likes of the Jamaicans. We know Jamaica is the powerhouse of sprinting in the Caribbean, and the goal is to keep Guyanese athletes home so that they can be the best versions of themselves representing Guyana right at home.
So I know your focus is on keeping Guyanese athletes home by ARCs, and with that, I know your time is limited. So we're gonna fast forward into one, congratulating to you for being married, and saying the last 3 times I came to Guyana is actually because of Arinze Chance. So you're doing a good job
I'm doing a good
already
job.
at not only keeping athletes home, but bringing
Yep.
people home to Guyana. So one, touch on your marriage. How was the process of training while planning a marriage? Because I know you were still in season.
Right. Well, honestly, my beautiful wife, Gabrielle Can, well, no chance.
Chance.
She did the heavy lifting. She literally put together an
81
81 page document for the wedding by herself, and she contacted all the vendors, some of them with my assistance, and it was beautiful. You were there, you saw it. It was honestly an amazing um, wedding day, and I'm very happy to now go on to this new chapter in life. You know what? We're now gonna then take some time out to plan when we will have children and all of that. So have some little chances running around. But yeah, I mean, she did an amazing job. So I really didn't have to do as much in terms of the planning, just the execution. And I told her she should definitely start her wedding planning business because she's a dentist. Yeah. And on the side, she can definitely because if you can put together an 81-page document for your own wedding, I think you can do about 50 or 60 pages for any other clients that you might have. So stay on the lookout for that. It's coming to you soon.
I mean, and to give y'all proof, it was honestly one of the best weddings I've attended. It wasn't a huge wedding. It was very intimate and small. Was that important to you?
Yes. Keeping it close because we're joining two families together at this wedding, and we wanted to ensure that persons who would have played an integral role in our development from childhood to adulthood, they were there to interact with the other persons on the other side of the family who would have developed the other individuals. So the goal was have fun with genuine people and share love and unity. There's so much that we can accomplish through unity, and that was the intention.
And your suit, oh my, we cannot let it go by. So tell us about how your suit came about. And
yeah, so my friend, I met him when I was in Trinidad, actually. He was a table tennis player at the time, Daniel Clark. Daniel Clark Bridal is his page on Instagram. Okay. And I met him, and he would have graduated top of his class in the fashion industry. I can't remember the exact name of the program, but there was a whole fashion show and everything else like that, and he displayed some amazing pieces. And after that, we took a photo, and I told him, "You're making my wedding suit." So when I hit him up with the wedding date, saying, "Hey, you need to make my suit," he thought I was joking, but I was like, "No, you remember when I told you 10 years ago that you were going to make my suit? Well, here we are today." And he was there at the wedding. If he had to adjust the suit in any way, or if there were any mishaps on the day, because you can never plan for those accidents. He was there to fix anything that needed to be fixed, and I couldn't thank him enough. So Daniel Clark Bridal, Daniel Clark is his name, from Tobago, talented guy, and he did an amazing job.
I mean, again, we're touching on bringing people home. There was a lot of Guyanese, a lot of Americans, but again, still a small, intimate wedding. But moving forward beyond the wedding, I know you also coach in the United States, and you coach a lot of younger athletes, and your focus is on youth development there as well as at home.
Right.
How is that going, and what's your plans for that in the future?
Well, you see, the goal is to spread ARC across the globe. We're currently in Guyana, currently registered. Yep, representation, right? We're currently in Guyana. We registered as well in the US, and we have two other countries where we will register in the near future. And in the US, I'm coaching at a private school, a Christian private school in South Carolina, Heathwood Hall. And the goal is really to share my years of experience and knowledge of the sport to guide the younger minds and to give them hope. It's more than just about athletic performance for me. It's about creating well-rounded individuals that will be tomorrow's leaders. I've learned valuable lessons through sport and academics, and I feel as if I do the same. I'm just passing it forward, literally handing the baton over to the next generation of leaders.
All right. Well, like I said, we know you're a busy man. You have some meetings to get to. It was amazing having you. I'm looking forward to having you on this show even more. I'm looking forward to the future of your track and field career and what's to come beyond that. It's honestly been a pleasure to be a part of it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I look forward to sharing more of my journey with you. Next year is Commonwealth Games. 2027 is World Championships. 2028 is the Olympics. And I think that will probably be the end of my track and field career. But then my involvement in track and field will extend way beyond 2028. Because like I mentioned, the goal is bridging the gap between Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean first, and then international competitors through sport. We're already doing an amazing job with the academics. Now it's my job through ARC and all of our partners and stakeholders to get Guyana to closer to the Jamaicans, the Trinidadians, the Bajans, and everybody else who is potentially out there doing better than we are right now. We're coming for you. We got oil money. We got the people. We're coming for you.
And last thing, actually two things before we go.
Sure, let's get it.
Tell the people where they can follow along with all this stuff, your personal page, the ARC page.
Right.
And then give an advice to your younger self to close us out.
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, follow us, first of all, Arinze Chance on any social media platform, and a Record Chance Official on any social media platform as well. We typically post on a Record Chance Official as we're leading up to events or after events. And then occasionally we'd post motivational stuff like that. So if you're looking for that everyday motivation, or you're looking for an idea of when we have events, follow us, a Record Chance Official. Just how it sounds, exactly how it's spelled. And Arinze Chance for my personal page. You'll just see me, my wife, and look forward to the little chances running around. But advice for my younger self: don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to try. You'll never know if you don't give it an honest effort. So everything that you do, first of all, put God. He has to be the head of it, not a consideration. But for me, it has helped. I put God first in everything. I pray about everything before I do it. And the second thing that I do is I give it an honest effort. You can never give subpar effort expecting great results. So if you're not satisfied with where you are, ask yourself two things. One, did you put God first? And two, what was your effort like? Just remember, a dead phone battery can only give you a phone call lasting a few minutes. So if the battery is full, you know that you can give of your best. So sleep well, eat well, stay hydrated, mind your business, and trust God.